What can we take away from Minnesota Vikings joint practice with the New England Patriots? I was there for both days. A lot of really interesting things across the board, and we are going to talk all about it. How good was J.J. McCarthy? How did he look next to Drake May? And what did that defensive line do? And why is one unheralded Viking getting the attention of Boston media? I'm going to reveal all that and more on another episode of The Real Forno Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Real Forno Show, hosted by the one and only Tyler Forness. A to Z Sports sought him out to be their Minnesota Vikings reporter and NFL analyst. And he's a proud contributor over at SKOL North's Purple Daily. Tyler is also the captivating host of The Good, The Bad, and The Hungry on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network, and a founding member of Vikings First and SKOL.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of The Real Forno Show, sponsored by our friends at Underdog Fantasy. My name is Tyler Forness. With me, as always, is producer Dave up in the top left corner. Dave, a lot of really cool things from practice, but I think we should start off the show by reminding everybody that we have our own Discord server. Link is in the comment or in the show notes if you're on YouTube or if you're on podcast. Come join us. We got nearly 50 people in there already. We're going to keep growing, building a fun little community, and having a lot of really good Vikings discussions. Plus, once we get our friend Gary in there, there's going to be a lot more food pictures in the food channel of all the cool stuff that we're going to be making, including I'm taking another stab at smoked salsa next week. And that's going to be a real good time. So join the Discord. Link is in the show notes. You can also find a link on my Twitter profile. You may have to scroll a little bit, but you can find it. Dave, joint practices were fun. As you can tell, I've got the raccoon eyes. And I didn't even wear my sunglasses today. They were just on my head to keep my hair from like flooping around like crazy. But it was a really fun couple of days of practice. I will say that I want to give a lot of credit to Kevin O'Connell and Mike Vrabel. They ran an incredibly structured, productive 2 practices. You got a lot of really good stuff if you're the coaching staff, if you're the team, if you're the front office, and the fans. Everybody got a bunch out of it. And I think that was really cool. You got a lot of one-on-ones. You got a lot of team. You got a lot of like 7-on-7. And they even did situational drills, did some special teams. And the special teams drills, look, special teams drills are fun. Where you've got it like a tackling dummy, and one guy's trying to get to the dummy, the other guy's trying to prevent him from getting to the dummy. It's great stuff. It's just a drill. Who wants it more? And I love it. But other than that, Dave, how are you?
I'm doing great. I was loving seeing all the clips that come out of camp today and hearing all the reports, both yesterday and today, but especially today. It was good.
Oh, it was good. It was a lot of fun to watch too. There was a lot of really good stuff, a lot of interesting things to kind of keep an eye on. But I think we should start at the top. 2 injuries from the Minnesota Vikings today. Josh Metellus went down at the very end of practice when they were doing a 2-minute drill. And the situational drill was 27-21. You're down 6. You have 1 timeout, 1 minute left. You're on like the 30-yard line. So you got to score. Drake May threw a bomb to Kayshon Boutte. And both Vikings defenders were a little too far deep. So Boutte was able to kind of get up in front and be able to go grab the pass. And a little frustrating end for the Vikings. But on that play, Metellus goes down. It looks like he hurt his shoulder. It didn't look like he landed on his shoulder, which is the weird thing. It was the other shoulder, almost like it got pulled in the process of trying to, make the tackle and be able to swat the ball out of the air. So that perspective makes me feel a little better about the injury, because that kind of tells me it's probably something like a strained labrum, a strained rotator cuff, where you're going to need some time to kind of let that heal. But it was because the arm got yanked, not because he landed hard and like dislocated or separated it. He did have the drooped shoulders. He walked off the field. He spent a couple minutes down on the ground getting checked out by trainers. That part doesn't really concern me too much. Whenever anybody gets injured, they're going to be checked out by trainers. But he did tell Kevin Seifert and potentially other reporters out there that he was fine as he was walking off the field. So that's a good sign. But O'Connell was very nondescript during his press conference after the fact. And we'll see.
As is his style when describing injuries.
Mm-hmm. He didn't have any update, which I mean, it was like an hour later. So we're not talking about something where he's going to know right away. Like you knew Ryan Moore's injury, bad. You didn't know how bad, but you knew it was bad. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. And the other injury was Jalen Naylor, who left practice with an apparent hand injury. And Darren Doogie Wolfson of Channel 5 ended up tweeting out that he believes it could be kind of serious. That's paraphrasing. I'm not using exact verbiage, but could be something not minor. We'll see.
I heard know. It was wrapped up.
And that could mean a lot of different things. So we're going to keep an eye on that. We're going to see what that could mean. It could be he got stepped on. It could be it's a broken bone. Could need surgery. We don't know any of that yet. We just know he got hurt. And we'll find out what that ends up looking like. But overall, those are the only two real injuries in practice. Levi Drake Rodriguez didn't practice with a sore ankle. Andy Van Ginkel didn't practice. I don't know if he was listed with an injury. I want to say maybe it was a foot, which I know he dealt with before he joined the Vikings. Harrison Smith did not practice either day with an illness. And Christian Darrisaw did not practice just on Thursday. I think it was a veteran rest day. So there were some guys who did not participate. Unfortunately, Justin Jefferson still has not returned. And on the other side, no Christian Gonzalez, who I really wanted to see. But only so much you can do. So from here, Dave, where do you want to start?
Well, let's start off with what's the biggest takeaways from J.J. McCarthy's performance today, especially with his banner 12 consecutive completions.
He did have 12 consecutive completions, and it was really cool to see. Honestly, I think the biggest takeaway for me is he balled out in front of Diana Rossini, and I just think that's funny. And Diana Rossini made a couple of appearances this week before she came out here. And one of them, she said, I did Dan Patrick's show and he set me up where I think Rodgers is going to go. And I took a guess. I wasn't reporting it. I took a guess. And this is where I don't like insiders giving opinions. Not that they're not allowed to have them. Of course they are. But when you're an insider and you're supposed to be a trusted source for information, and that's your entire job, I'm not a fan of them giving opinions because then they get misinterpreted as fact. And then things snowball. And I think they need to be more measured in how they kind of deliver that stuff because she got railroaded by Vikings fans because of all the Aaron Rodgers stuff. And I think it's important to know that and kind of be careful when you're doing some of those things. But I thought it was pretty cool that McCarthy just balled out in front of her. He did have 12 straight completions. The big thing for me was I really just wanted to see good progress, good process. And I think we have been seeing good process with McCarthy. He's been doing some of the same things day in and day out. He's been using good process in trying to find receivers down the field. He's been using good process in trying to do all of the little things. Use progressions, avoid pressure, find his receivers and throw in the right spot. All of those things are starting to compile. And all of those things are starting to really resonate on a consistent level. I thought of all the days I've been in camp, I think this might have been his best day as a professional. He was really good. He was precise. He even layered a couple balls, which has been a work in progress for him. And that's pretty normal coming into the NFL. Not a lot of guys throw with great touch. What's interesting is on the other side of the field, Drake May, I thought, has always thrown with great touch, and he can also rifle it in there with the best of them. So being able to kind of see the comparison next to each other was really interesting. I just thought McCarthy has really taken a step forward, and I think you should feel a little bit more confident going in. I still am in the boat of prove it to me. Let's get in the regular season. Let's see how you do. You're passing all like the entire checklist, but before you finish that pre-fight checklist, at the end of the day, you still got to fly the plane. I want to see him fly the plane. I want to see him lead this offense. I want to see him do all the things over the course of a few games. And then we can kind of sit back and be like, okay, the bye week, let's break down where he's at, what he's done, and figure out what needs to continue to happen in order to grow. And I've seen a lot of really good from McCarthy, but I want it to continue, and I want it to end up being great. And I do think that could end up being a possibility. He's a good football player, and he's showing that. And I'm really excited to kind of see how he ends up taking that next step, because that's going to be the big thing. How are you going to translate that to a live game situation? How are you going to translate that into a pressure situation where we saw him do a lot of really good stuff under pressure at Michigan in the limited sample size that we have? I do think that the chemistry with him and Jordan Addison is growing significantly, and I think that's great to see. You want to see that kind of growth. You want to see that kind of consistency. You want to see J.J. McCarthy do a lot of those things. And Addison's just having an incredible camp. If Justin Jefferson wasn't on this team, Addison would probably put up bonkers numbers. He's really, really good at football. And it's crazy to think that he was the fourth receiver of that group drafted. He was in my top 5 of all players in that draft class of 2023. I did have Quentin Johnston higher, and I loved Quentin Johnston. I still think he can be good. He just has to, there's this thing about receivers, Dave. They have to catch the football.
Well, and there was also the size issues with Addison. He weighed a $130 or something like that. He was skinny.
$173
when he came out.
And he was like, a big thing with Addison was he was slender, and it didn't feel like he could put on a ton of weight because of how his frame was. It did, anybody can bulk up, but if you just eat an absurd amount of food, then your body just stores fat, whatever. But when you're a high functioning athlete, it's hard to put on a lot of muscle while continuing to be quick, twitchy, and explosive. So how much weight could he really put on? That, to me, that was the big question. And how would he be able to manage that? But it hasn't been an issue in the NFL unless he's getting absolutely mauled at the line of scrimmage and press, which not a lot of teams can do that. And even if you can do that, once he gets a free release, he'll just cook your guts. And that's been a real benefit to where this team is at. And
speaking of mauling and press, yesterday, Jeff Okudah lined up to maul Stephon Diggs. And Jeff Okudah proceeded to get juked out of his socks.
You know what it reminded me of, Dave? Remember that 2015 game against the Broncos? Vikings lost by 3. That was the Super Bowl Broncos team, but they took him to the end, and it was a 4th down sack, I think, that sealed the deal as the Vikings were trying to drive for game-time field goal. There was a play in that game where a rookie, Stephon Diggs, in his first ever NFL game, made Aqib Talib look like he had never played football before. He did the exact same thing to him. And that reminded me a lot of that. The big thing with Okudah, and I like Okudah. I think he's a good bet for the price. My big concern was, well, can he play man? Is he going to, he has this thing where there's a scene in D3 The Mighty Ducks where Coach O'Ryan's trying to get Charlie Conway to really focus on playing defense. He's like, you can score, but you got to play defense. And he was right. Well, his big thing was make him make the first move. And when you make the first move, then you can react to it. Well, part of Okudah's problem is he allows them to make the first move, and then he's just a little too slow in reacting, where he could open up his hips maybe it's just a smidge earlier and then force them to commit at that point. And then he has that fluid enough hips to be able to rotate and bail himself out if he needs to. The way I look at Okudah is he is Shaq Griffin with more speed. He's not going to be much better than that. You don't want to have him in man coverage very often, if at all. But the things you're going to ask him to do, trail and chase and go over the top and be able to read and react when a throw is coming downhill and he can just go attack the receiver. I think he can do those things, and I think he's going to be really good in what this defense asks him to do. One of the tough parts about one-on-ones is it's designed for the cornerbacks to suck. It is very hard. So if a cornerback makes really good plays during one-on-ones, that tells you how good they are. Even good cornerbacks get their butts whipped because it's a lose-lose situation. There's no safety help. There's no pressure. There's no scheme. It's all about just trying to beat your man, and that's hard. If you've ever played backyard football on Thanksgiving and tried to guard your cousin that's just more athletic and faster than you, you know it's just hard. And that's kind of a big thing. It's just hard.
So I was wanting to point out, it was a one-on-one drill. And B-Flow normally plays a zone here in Minnesota. And so he's going to get help normally. And he's going against one of the best route runners in the business.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't look good for young Jeff Okudah at the time.
It didn't look good at all. But at the same time, it's fine. The one-on-one drill. That context is really important. And understanding that, I think is really important. It's a really bad social media narrative, which is how a lot of people consume things, and that's fine. But it's nowhere near as bad as it could be. And I think the big thing for me when it comes to the Vikings cornerback room is once you get into real game situations, I think Okudah is going to be fine. I don't think we're going to have issues. I mean, he's not going to be great. He's not going to be this elite player like we thought he was going to be coming out of Ohio State, but I think he's going to be good. And I think that's important. He's just going to be a good player. Going to be solid. He's going to be Shaq Griffin, but can run faster. And at the end of the year, when these guys had to really trail, Gilmore and Griffin, they didn't have the juice anymore to carry with these guys. Okudah's got the juice to carry. And that could be a big separator down the road when we start talking about playoff time. The other thing I really noticed from one-on-ones, Isaiah Rodgers, Dave, the patience, it's so good. It's real good. So the biggest thing with patience is you make them make their first move, but you don't overreact to anything that's happening in front of you until they fully commit. You just stay calm, cool, collected. If they kind of do that stutter step and then try to go past you, well, guess what? They ain't getting past because you're going to just like, hey, slow down a smidge, but not like start stopping. Just kind of use tempo and slow down a little bit. And then once they fire back up, guess what? You're already in fourth gear and you can fire back up to fifth in a heartbeat. You're not going from second or first to fifth. You're going from fourth. And I think he does a really good job of kind of making that work. And I'm really excited about what Rodgers can bring. I will say there were a couple plays where his lack of height and length did come into play, where May was able to layer the ball over the top. And you're going to have that with guys who are shorter. That's why some teams will draft guys or not draft guys because of how big they are. Richard Sherman had over 33-inch arms. Those arms got them to a Super Bowl because they were able to tip the ball away from Michael Crabtree. If he had 30-inch arms, nope, Michael Crabtree catches that, and Niners are going to the Super Bowl. So that's why teams do prioritize the length. That's why they prioritize size. But at a certain point, skill is just too good to pass on, even if you don't have all like the little measurables. So I'm really intrigued to kind of see what this corner room's like. Otherwise, I thought some Dwight McGlothern had some really good reps. He got a pick 6 on day 1. Jay Ward got another pick 6 on day 1. He's had a really good camp. It feels like he's starting to come into his own and get comfortable. And that's a big deal for this team. It's a big deal. And I'm excited to see how everything continues to grow and develop with that group. But overall, the secondary, you didn't really notice them a whole lot in team. They're just playing shell coverages. It's basic. You go into Madden, it's just cover 2 zone, cover 3 sky, quarters. They're doing basic stuff. They don't want to show their exotic stuff. But guess what? The defensive line, which we'll talk about a little bit, Dave, it was an ass whooping.
But before we get to the big round bellies on the defensive side, I wanted to point out there was some beautiful clips of the young rookie, Mr. Donovan Jackson, absolutely pancaking Patriots, both day 1 and day 2.
Mm-hmm. There was.
And it looks like that screen game is going to be sweet.
He was really good at the screen game in college, too. And it's not just about being athletic enough to run. It's about being athletic enough to run, aim, and hit your target because everybody's moving. I thought he was really good from overall perspective. I thought he was really good from a what do you call it? He was really good from just a blocking perspective. I thought he showcased a lot of power in his hands today. I was really just impressed on an overall level with what he was doing and where he's at. That in itself, I think, is great to see. There were some things that I'm still a little concerned about. I think he doesn't always have consistent pass sets when he's going up against some really good defensive linemen. I think he can be a little bit slow out of his stance, but some of that is just going to come with time because he's adapting to a new breed of pass rusher. The Big Ten has some good dudes. He faced off against Mason Graham, sure, but there are a bunch of dudes better than Mason Graham, and that is going to be a big factor. I don't think he's going to be this elite player right away, but I do think he's going to be a really good player down the line, and he's going to be solid right away. So having Jackson, I think, is going to be a net positive, but don't be surprised if he's not just like this elite difference maker immediately. It's okay if it takes some time, especially in the trenches.
No, I got that. But I saw a clip today. He was doing pass pro, and he was stuck on basically the hip of the center, and I didn't see if it was Juergens or if it was our starter. And SKOL was being ridden outside and having problems. Nobody rushed at Jackson. So Jackson, knowing, did the side swipe where he kept his hand on the center until he released, and then he went out and obliterated the edge that was demolishing SKOL in the process. It's things like that. The mental, I'm situationally aware of what's going on. I can release because there's no pressure on my side. I'm going to go assist. Are things that are advanced.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a good sign.
Yeah, it's Ed Ingram kind of had that too, where it was wild watching his college film coming out because there were so many plays where he had nothing to do. So what did he do? Let's go hit somebody. And I think that's going to be a really nice thing, especially with like Darisaw. Well, they don't. People just don't try to mess with. They don't try to mess with Darisaw. Darisaw will get beat a time or two. But at the end of the day, I think it's really impressive to kind of see where he's at, especially because Justin SKOL, I just don't think is very good. It would not shock me if Walter Rouse is the swing tackle. I think Rouse is at a good camp. Especially like hit some of his reps against Dallas Turner, who had a couple really good ones today rushing the passer on the Patriots. But some really good stuff overall from the offensive side of football. I will say this wide receiver position, if Naylor's out for an extended period of time, like I'm talking like if he's out 4 to 6 weeks or something, then I think maybe the Vikings need to look at like an Amari Cooper or Gabe Davis, something like that. But I don't think they need to right now until we get more information. So I will say Lucky Jackson looked pretty good. He had a drop in the back of the end zone. He just should have had it. He messed up. He dropped it. Thayer Thomas is like the most boring player on the team, just vanilla as can be, but he does a lot of the technical things right and gets open from the slot, can run a lot of those short routes and find the hole in the zone, and he catches almost everything that comes at him. Deshaun Jones, I think, has a more of an upside than both of those guys, but one of the big things with Jones is he's been inconsistent. And today I thought he had a really consistent day. They ran a slot fade from about 40 yards out, and Sam Howell put in the bucket, and Jones tracked it really well. And bada bing, bada boom. Everything was good. So I think this receiver depth is actually pretty solid. Tim Jones also had a really good day. I thought that was important to note because he's had some struggles over the course of the last, few weeks. And he had some big time struggles in the preseason game, like special team struggles. That's how he's going to make the team. That's his bread and butter. So seeing those struggles, oofta, not great. But this wide receiver room, I think, is fine. I'm not really that concerned about it. But if Naylor's hurt from a long-term perspective, that's going to change things because now you're talking about Lucky Jackson's wide receiver 2, and that's not ideal. Jalen Naylor's wide receiver 2 is not ideal, but he's already shown that he can step up in that role before. So you're like, okay, we've seen it. It'll be fine. I want to see how he can maximize and grow with the whatchamacallit. My brain is just farting. See how much he can grow from where he was at last year. And I think if he's hurt for an extended period of time, like it sounds like it's a hand injury by all accounts, but what if it's a tendon injury in the hand and it needs surgery? Well, then we're going to be talking more about getting
or if it's broken, that's 6 weeks.
Absolutely. Dave L mentions that Ty Felton's getting better. Yeah, he looks like a much better player than at the start of camp. I can tell you that much. He spent time after practice last 2 days working on like releases and stuff with Keenan McCardell. Stephon Diggs, also a Maryland alum, ended up going over and helping. So he's doing the right things. And he had a great punt on a rep against the Texans. So I like where his direction is going, but I don't know if we can really count on him to be much right away. And I think that's okay. He was the 102nd overall pick. 103rd overall pick was a 4th rounder. So we're going to be in the wait and see mode for that. And I think that's okay. But overall, the offense I thought looked pretty solid on an aggregate over the 2 days. I thought day 2 was much better than day 1. But day 1, sometimes it's often like a feeling out period. So we'll kind of see how they continue to grow. Don't expect to see many or if any starter play against the Patriots on Sunday. You're going to see a lot of those backups. And that's going to be a really fun group to watch.
Okay. Now, I happen to listen to Locked On Vikings with Luke Braun this morning. And they had on, he had on some guest I'd never heard of talking about defensive linemen.
Yeah, that was me. So the number one question I got, because I had dinner with some Boston media members last night, and they didn't really ask me many Vikings questions, but there was one. They're like, who is 61? There's a bunch of Patriots beat guys who were kind of talking about it. That's Jalen Redmond. Redmond rules, man. He has really stepped up his game. He looks a lot better than he did last year. And last year, he had such a good camp. He earned a roster spot. when he was like the 90th man on the roster because he was signed from the XFL in like June. He wasn't expected to do anything. It felt like a camp body. Well, guess what? He earned a spot, and I thought it was really impressive to kind of see. I'm really excited to see how Redmond's going to continue to grow and develop. He is the fourth offensive line or defensive lineman. He's the fourth guy. He's ahead of Ingram Dawkins. He's ahead of Levi Drake Rodriguez and Taki Taimani. He's been really good and really consistent. Redmond, I think, I don't know what his upside is per se, but I do think it's really good on an overall scale. I'm excited about Jalen Redmond. I think he could be great. We'll see how everything ends up manifesting, but Redmond, he had a couple really nice plays, including one just absolutely torqued himself into the backfield and destroyed a running back. Ooh, buddy, that was awesome. I'm really excited to see what Redmond does long term. Remember, he's only going into like his third year as a pro. One of those is with the XFL. So Redmond is still young. I think he's only 25, 26. And there's still talent left to kind of be unearthed with him. And if you do unearth it, guess what? Maybe he's so good that they feel like they can get rid of Javon Hargrave a year early before his deal expires. And then they can use that salary cap space on another position because Redmond's ready to take over. Like those are the kind of things like Kwesi Adofo-Mensah is thinking about. That's why a lot of these contracts that were signed this offseason were like had short-term outs because you wanted to make sure that you had an opportunity to kind of move on from that player if you needed to. And overall, I think they've done a really good job of figuring out how to maximize what they're doing and how they're going to be able to do it.
Now, that was Redmond. What about the rest of the defensive line?
I think Taki Taimani is on his way to being cut. I don't think that's much of a surprise if you've been kind of listening along and reading. And Bulldog just asked if Taki Taimani expected him at the roster. I don't. I think he's been surpassed by Levi Drake Rodriguez, Tyrion Ingram Dawkins. There are a lot of fans in that building of him, and you can see it on the practice field. Ingram Dawkins, I don't think he's ready to start working with the ones, but he is working with the ones. I think they view him as this high upside athlete that can really be unlocked at the next level because Georgia defensive linemen are weird. They're kind of just asked to do one thing and specialize and just do that one thing really well. But they're so good at that one thing, it kind of doesn't matter. But that's about winning college football games. It's not about developing for the next level. So sometimes you get a guy like Ingram Dawkins who needs to learn a thing or two, but he's got all the traits to be great at the next level. So we'll kind of see. We'll kind of see what he looks like. Dallas Turner had a good couple days, mainly better on Thursday. Jonathan Grenard, that dude's a game wrecker.
He's playing at an MVP possible level this offseason.
When I did
this training camp,
when I ranked every player, Dave, Jonathan Grenard was my third best player behind just Jefferson and Darrisaw. I think Grenard has earned it. I think his performance has been nothing short of incredible over the course of his tenure with the Vikings. And I think there's more to unlock with him, which is kind of crazy to think about, right? How in the world is there going to be more to unlock with a guy like Grenard? But there is. 35.5-inch arms. He's got incredible explosiveness off the ball. He's got a good strength profile, and he's athletic enough to drop. Those kind of things are just such a great package. And he's probably going to get a raise here pretty soon. $19 million a year is nothing for what he's giving you. And I think I actually said it would be smarter to give him more money now and structure the contract in a way that suits you than to wait on it. But they've decided to kind of hold off. And I think that there is some kind of benefit to that. There's a good explanation and rationale as to why you should do that, but Grenard is a monster. He's so good. Overall, it was hard to really see a lot from the defensive line because trenches, from my perspective, are very difficult to watch. You don't get to see a lot because, all right, I'm sitting in the bleachers. I'm about 20 to 30 yards away from the back end zone line. And then on top of that, how far away are they from the back end zone line? Oftentimes they're 80 yards away. So having to be able to watch all of that and watch it so in-depthly and intently is really difficult, which is why sometimes in these joint practices, I don't watch a lot of trenches because I don't want to be misinformed due to the fact that I'm so far away. But you saw how explosive that Redmond rep was. You saw Dallas Turner bend the arc really well and be able to get the sack in that 2-minute drill situation. I spent so much time in the sun. I'm tired, man. Been a long but fun couple of days. And Grenard, you can just see him bend around the arc and just be an absolute monster. I think the defense can be better than last year. The big thing is they're going to have to stay relatively healthy. Make sure Allen and Hargrave don't suffer season-ending injuries. Make sure that Van Ginkel's, whatever he's dealing with, I think it's a foot, is okay. Do those things. Sky is the limit, man. It is the absolute limit. I'm really excited about it.
Gotcha. Hey, Grenard came out with more is required, and he's obviously living up to what he's stated so far, and you gotta love that. Now, one thing I'm seeing a lot of is TJ Hockenson. Does the Hawk look back?
I mean, I thought he was back last year. He looks like Hockenson. He just looks great. I'm not like necessarily prescribing to the fact that, hey, this guy is like back. He already was. He looks good. He is moving really well. He's really aggressive and physical when attacking the ball at the catch point, which, Dave, I think you and I know is so important. There was a rep where he was throwing like a fade. He just kind of grabbed and snatched the ball out of the space and secured it for the touchdown. Hockenson was willing to get physical in the middle of the field in traffic trying to catch the ball. He's doing the right things. He's doing it consistently. And I'm really excited to kind of see how things continue to evolve with him. I think he's going to be such a huge factor in the success of J.J. McCarthy because he's that piece tight end. You have a good tight end, oh, buddy, it changes everything for you. And if it changes everything, that can really help elevate your offense. Those 3rd and 8s that Kirk Cousins struggled to pick up, well, they got fixed when he brought in TJ Hockenson. Because all of a sudden now you're just spamming wide choice across the middle of the field, and he just like waits patiently for Hockenson to make his break and boink, throw it right there. So I think we're going to see a lot of that from McCarthy and Hockenson as we go into the year. I'm just really excited about where he's at and what he can do. Just good stuff.
Great. How'd the running backs look today?
It's really hard to tell. Aaron Jones caught like a 50-yard wheel route down the field for a touchdown. That was awesome. It's so hard sometimes to know with the running game how like good the run is because they're not tackling. And sometimes if a guy doesn't get touched, well, is it because other guys aren't trying to be as physical as they normally would during the game? So how to kind of parse all that out can be
hard
tough
to see if they're running up the middle. If you're 80 yards away and you got the mass of humanity pushing on each other, get some little guy trying to hit the right hole, it's not easy to pick out from your viewpoint.
No, it's not. And that's why I try to focus on what I know I can control, what I know I can form a good opinion on. I will say Xavier Scott looked like he's continuing that momentum that he built in the game against the Texans this past Saturday. explosive run. That was one that you could clearly see because nobody touched him through the hole because there's nobody there. And it was a relatively clean break through the hole. And then he was able to looked like about 20, 30 yards. Like that kind of stuff, that pays off. I would rather have a guy who delivers a bunch more 20, 30-yard runs than a guy who delivers me an extra 2 to 3, like 70-yarders. Nothing against 70-yarders, but the 20 to 30-yarders, I think, are more impactful on an overall basis because you have a 70-yarder in 3 games. That rocks. But you can have a 20 to 30-yarder. We can have 1 or 2 of them a game. And if you have like 3 of them in a game, just think of how impactful that is for moving the ball and doing some of the right things. And I think the Vikings have that with what their running back group is going to be with Aaron Jones, Jordan Mason, and either Ty Chandler, Xavier Scott, or maybe both. The Vikings have done weirder things before. So running backs overall, I think Ty Chandler still got the stronghold on running back 3, but that can change. And that can change pretty quickly. And we'll see how that ends up changing.
Well, and speaking of changing quickly, right now, as I see it, in the quarterback room behind J.J. McCarthy, we have Sam Howell. I think Brett Rippon is out. And Max Brosmer is going to be our number 3 QB. How do you expect to see those 3 gentlemen either these last 2 days? How did they look? And then bring that forward to Saturday.
It's both a good and a bad thing for Sam Howell. He's just a gamer. It's almost like when the lights go on, like a switch gets activated in him. He just plays better under pressure. Brosmer, I think, has a real shot to make this team. Did not get a ton of reps, which he's quarterback for. Of course, he's not getting a ton of reps. But he made the most of what reps he had. Hit a deep over yesterday, hit a 40-yard fade bomb to Tim Jones for a touchdown. He's doing the most with what he's got. And I think that's a really important thing. If you want more, you have to be good against the scrubs. Then you can get some against like some legit players. And I think that is such a big thing here. You have to be able to show it on multiple levels. And I think Brosmer has done that. I think there's a good chance he ends up as the quarterback on this team, the quarterback 3. And if he does, Dave, it's a tremendous thing.
It is. What do you expect from the game on Saturday?
It's going to be a bunch of 3rd and 4th stringers. You're probably not seeing much of the second team at all because second team played a lot. It's probably going to be a bunch of 3rd and 4th string guys who need to make the roster, guys who want to put a lot on tape. But I do think it could be still end up being a fun game because there is a lot of interesting players, but you're not going to see the starters and you're not going to see a good chunk of the second teamers. I remember when the Vikings played the 49ers in 2022, I think the Vikings had like 35 or 40 players ruled out for the game because they just did a full week of joint practices. So we're going to see.
From what I heard, and I want to say it was from Coach O'Connell, that Sam Howell will start the game. How long he stays in?
I guess he plays a series or 2, and then you get a bunch of Rippon and Brosmer. And I think that's a good thing. You want to be able to evaluate those guys. I think Brosmer's got a future in the NFL. I don't know how good he can be. There's something there. It might just be his backup, but that's okay. There's nothing wrong with being a backup. So
you can make a good living doing it too. But he seems to have, and I'm talking about Brosmer, the QB brain for it. He's making clear decisions.
Yeah.
Quick decisions. Following his reads. Doing everything he's supposed to be doing, which most rookies have a very, very hard time.
And I think that's an important thing here. He's kind of giving me the vibes of Brock Purdy, and not from a play style standpoint, not from, hey, I think it's a comp for him. I think he got put in the right situation with the right coach to maximize what his skill set is. And that is to be able to fire the ball in the intermediate parts of the field, with accuracy and velocity. He's real good at that. Plus, he throws with good anticipation on those routes. That all factors in and matters. I think Brosmer probably gets that QB3 job. I think there's something there. I really do. Brosmer looks legit. And I'm excited to kind of see how legit that can get over the course of the next few weeks. If he doesn't make the team, he'll be on the practice squad. He's a dude. He's a good football player. And he's in the right spot. His skill set matches what this is. So I'm really excited.
I agree. Where can they find your work?
A2ZSports.com. I also have an A2Z Sports YouTube channel where I do some other stuff there too. But obviously, Vikings First and SKOL. We do the Real Forno Show. Have a lot of fun. And then you can find everything I do, as I mentioned earlier in the show, in the Vikings First and SKOL Discord channel, where in the server, I've got a ton of different channels built. I have one that's got all of my tweets linked. I have one where I just put all my articles, and it's a place you're going to want to be, especially during the season. We're going to do a lot of extra fun stuff in there. And if you are a member to the YouTube channel, you get bonus chats. Well, one, where you can ask me whatever you want. And two, anytime I hear a rumor, I will drop it in the channel. And only the YouTube members can have access to it. But one thing that's really interesting is it's a pretty simple process to link your YouTube channel to your Discord profile and your YouTube status. So it just auto links it. I don't manually put it in. You set it up, and then you get access to the channel. And you'll see a little lock in the top right corner of it. But yeah, a lot of really fun stuff. And we are going to have more next week. I will be back on Monday talking about the preseason game. And then Dave and Darren will also be back on Sunday to break down.
Well, at least Dave will be.
Oh, Darren. What are we going to do with him? I don't know. But until then.
And Freddie, we may talk about that punter competition on Two Old Bloggers.
Yeah, it's hard because you don't know what they're working on. But Ryan Wright's had a bunch of bad punts yesterday. It was rough. So make sure you check all that out. We'll be back Monday. I'm Tyler. He's Dave. SKOL Vikings, everybody.
SKOL Vikings. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell to get notifications. It helps us grow this community that we all love, our Minnesota Vikings. And on behalf of Tyler Forness and myself, Dave Stefano, thank you so dearly for watching The Real Forno Show. SKOL, everyone!